Hey everybody, Coach Stacy Lynn here. So glad that you clicked that button. I hope that you stay for a few minutes because this is only going to be a few minutes. So, first thing I want to say is thank you for watching. If you feel like subscribing, go for it. I would love it, but there's no requirement, people. All right. So, I wanted to share with you something that I've been doing, and I hope that you've noticed. And if you're new to this channel, hopefully you will stay and you'll figure this out. Um, I recently put a graphic on my channel and I'm going to show it to you. It's over here in the post section of my page here. Okay. And I put this graphic in here because I say this to myself a lot. Feeling safe is my new normal. In fact, I love this saying so much that I'm planning on putting it on a coffee cup because I think when you're having your coffee in the morning, if you can read feeling safe is my new normal, then you're like, oh yeah, feeling safe is my new normal. So why do I bring this up? I bring it up because anxiety is probably the number one thing people struggle with all over the place. True story. And there's a lot of reasons why we all deal with anxiety. By the way, I'm not one of these Christians who believes that to be anxious is a sin. There's so much bad teaching out there about that, where people are like, well, if you're anxious and you're a sinner and you're being disobedient to God, blah blah blah. That's just not the case, okay? It is not the case. But being anxious and having a background in trauma, whether it's big T trauma or little t trauma, often that anxiety will be wired in your brain. So God has given us the ability to rewire our brains. Just read Romans 12:2. It says to not be conformed to this world, but to be transformed by the renewing of our mind. It goes on to say other stuff too, but that's the main part that we all pick out, right? So if you begin to believe that feeling safe is your new normal, guess what? It will be. It will be. And I wanted also to share this quote with you too. And I also put this quote up on my thing, and I'm going to just share, I may as well just share that too. Hold on a second. This quote here. Now, in Psalm 23, verse 6, it's the last verse in Psalm 23. It says, surely goodness and mercy, um, depending on your translation. Here it says, surely goodness and unfailing love. I actually forgot. I just noticed I forgot the I. Oh well, whatever. Anyway, but it says, surely goodness and unfailing love. This is the NLT version. Surely goodness and mercy. That's the New American Standard and probably the King James Version. It says, will follow me all the days of my life. And then I would add, not trauma and adversity. So let's say this together. Surely goodness and unfailing love will follow me all the days of my life, not trauma and adversity. I was recently coaching a pastor and I told him this, and I was like, ooh, that must have been God because it just came out. I was like, that's quotable. And it's true. When David wrote Psalm 23, you know, we love Psalm 23 because it's a psalm of comfort. The Lord is our shepherd. We shall not want, right? Um, and David was a shepherd way before he ever became king. So he had a very visual picture there, right? And Jesus says in the New Testament that he is the good shepherd. So, we are his sheep if we hear his voice, right? I've really held on to that promise though in verse 6. Surely goodness and mercy or unfailing love will follow me all the days of my life. You know, um not trauma and adversity. You know, one of the biggest things I work with clients on is getting out of the chaos, right? Because it's all chaos, trauma, adversity, trauma, adversity. That's where they're at. Everything is blah, you know, their emotions are all over the place because they haven't actually dealt with the trauma and the adversity in a healthy way. Um, and that's a lot of people, right? Now, me, I'm 57. I started therapy, I don't know, when I was 20 or something. Had a bad experience with my first therapist. I saw her for 3 years, and then I ended up spending a long time with my second one. But through that, I also went through grad school, earned some degrees, um, and eventually came to be a certified master Christian life coach, which is different than a therapist, even though I have that background. The coach part is the part where we look forward and we focus on the present and going forward. We're not going to get stuck in the past. You can't do anything about your past. Now, it's important to look at your past, especially if you can't move forward, you have to. But the feeling safe part, you can do something about. You can actually do something about learning how to become safe and make that your new normal. So I want you to know going forward, one of the things on this channel I'm going to be doing is throwing out safety to you, because the world says if it bleeds, it leads. And the Christian church says, oh my gosh, look at this controversy and let's look at all this and this and this and blah, 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 blah. And everybody's like, blah. And I'm like, you know what? We don't have to be that way. We do not have to be that way. We can be people of peace, right? Because the Bible says, surely goodness and mercy will follow us all the days of our life. I mean, that's to David, but I believe it applies to us too. Um, Not trauma and adversity. Now, here's the thing. I know somebody's going to say, well, what do you mean Christians don't have trauma and adversity? And I'm going to just tell you that as a norm, it's not a normal thing that God promises people who follow him. Yes, believers will suffer. That's one thing. We go through trials, read the book of James. But trauma and adversity doesn't have to follow us all the days of our life. My friend Tabby, she says, uh, trauma doesn't have to be your lunch. She says something like that. Trauma doesn't have to eat you for lunch. She also says this, which I really like. She says, somebody can come and pour a whole bunch of garbage on your porch, but you don't have to leave it there, right? You can clean it up. So, and that's my point here, is that if you want to feel safe and you want to move forward in your life, you will. That was a good thing from my phone. You will, you will. That's the bottom line, unless you choose not to. And that's the thing, you have a choice. So you have a choice whether or not feeling safe is going to be your new normal or trauma and adversity is going to continue to be where you're at. You don't have to. You don't have to be there. Okay, I said it all. So I wanted to share that with you, and I would love to hear your comment. Do you feel safe most of the time, or do you really let anxiety and worry and all those things like lead you? Does the trauma and adversity, the insecurity, the anxiety, does all of that, is that more dominant than feeling peaceful and safety? Let me know. If it is, let me tell you something. If it is, then set up an appointment with me and let's talk, because I can help you with that. Now, I'm going to tell you one other thing too, in complete transparency here, because I don't believe in lying about anything. And that is that I haven't arrived. I know, right? I haven't. I still struggle with anxiety. I know the cause of my anxiety, though. The majority of it has to do with light. So I really have to deal with that. And I actually have glasses here. Just as an example, yesterday I went and played pickleball, and going to the gym makes me highly, highly anxious. It puts me on edge like you wouldn't believe. My whole body's on, you know, but I still pushed through it and I went anyway, because I know it's just a physical reaction to too much light. It is what it is, and I've learned to adapt with it because I am choosing to feel safe. There's nothing in my life where I'm at, there's no danger or threat in my life. I live in a safe house, I have a safe husband, I have a safe place I play pickleball, I have a safe car. I mean, I'm safe, right? Just because my body reacts to a physical stimuli doesn't mean I have to let it control me. And some of you let things control you instead of you controlling them. But the cool thing about God is that He has given us the ability to change because His Spirit will actually transform us. And so, just want to share that with you today. And as I always say, if I remember, I hope you have a better day.